So I've heard players say, including myself, I feared Mike. I've heard players in your generation say they feared Kobe. I've never really heard any players say they fear LeBron.
For years, NBA legends have debated one major difference between their era and today's league. According to many veterans, the NBA used to feel like a battlefield. Every night was a test of toughness, pride, and intimidation. But today, many former stars believe the league feels more like entertainment than warfare. And the player most often at the center of that debate is LeBron James. No former superstar has voiced this frustration more openly than Shaquille O'Neal. For Shaq, the issue isn't just about championships or statistics. It's about the competitive spirit that once defined the league. In his view, the modern NBA celebrates personality and branding just as much as dominance. And that shift has changed how greatness is perceived. In earlier eras, reputation mattered. Players weren't just trying to win, they were trying to break their opponents mentally. When teams faced Michael Jordan, they saw a player whose intensity was almost intimidating. When they faced Kobe Bryant, they encountered the cold focus of the famous Mamba mentality. These players built an aura that made opponents uneasy before the game even began. Critics say LeBron projects a very different energy. Instead of intimidation, they see entertainment, pre-game dance routines, choreographed warm-ups, and viral social media moments. After one loss late in his career, LeBron even joked to reporters that he was just a goofy 41-year-old kid. To fans, that comment may sound harmless, but to many former players, it represents a completely different mindset from the ruthless competitiveness they remember. Shaq has often pointed out what he believes is the key difference between LeBron and the legends before him. Fear. Opponents feared Jordan. They feared Kobe. They certainly feared Shaq himself when he was dominating the paint. But according to Shaq, players rarely say they feared LeBron. Former star Kevin Garnett hinted at this idea while reflecting on the 2010 NBA playoffs. Garnett explained that the Boston Celtics didn't believe LeBron could beat them alone. They respected his talent, but they weren't intimidated in the same way teams once feared Jordan. In Garnett's words, Boston simply attacked Cleveland's weaknesses and forced LeBron into uncomfortable situations. To many old school players, that difference in perception matters. Shaq's own philosophy during his career was brutally simple: show up, dominate, and go home. No extra spectacle was needed. His presence alone changed how opponents played. Teams designed entire defensive strategies just to survive his physical dominance. That's the kind of aura many veterans believe defined the NBA's greatest competitors. Another moment that continues to spark debate happened in 2016 after the 2016 NBA Finals. Following the Cleveland Cavaliers' historic comeback from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors, LeBron celebrated by declaring that the victory made him the greatest player of all time. For supporters, it was a confident statement after an incredible achievement. For critics like Shaq, it crossed an unwritten line. In previous generations, players rarely crowned themselves. Their dominance forced the world to do it for them. Jordan never needed to publicly argue that he was the greatest. The 6 championships and 6 finals MVP awards made the case. Kobe never held a press conference to demand recognition. His 5 rings and relentless competitiveness spoke loudly enough. LeBron's statement felt different to some observers. Instead of letting history decide, he inserted himself into the debate directly. Statistics are another major battleground in this argument. LeBron eventually surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the NBA's all-time leading scorer, a historic achievement that highlights his incredible longevity. Supporters view it as proof of unmatched greatness, but critics like Shaq see the record differently. LeBron needed more than 2 decades in the league to accumulate those points. Jordan, by comparison, won 10 scoring titles in just 11 full seasons with the Chicago Bulls. To Shaq, that represents the difference between peak dominance and long-term accumulation. LeBron has only 1 scoring title across his career, while Jordan dominated the scoring race year after year. The finals record also fuels the debate. LeBron's teams have gone 4-6 in the championship series. Jordan famously finished 6-0. Those numbers don't tell the entire story. Context matters, but critics often point to them as evidence that LeBron didn't always deliver when the stakes were highest. Another controversial topic is LeBron's career path. Many former players admire stars who stayed with one franchise and built dynasties from the ground up. Jordan battled the Detroit Pistons for years before finally breaking through. Legends endured difficult seasons before reaching the top. LeBron's journey looked different. In 2010, he announced his move from Cleveland to the Miami Heat during a televised special known as The Decision, joining Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh to form a superstar trio. After 4 seasons and 2 championships, he returned to Cleveland, where he teamed up with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Later, he moved again to the Los Angeles Lakers and won another title alongside Anthony Davis. Supporters call this player empowerment, a superstar taking control of his career. Critics see something else, a pattern of carefully choosing the best situations rather than conquering the league from one base. Then there's the debate about physical toughness across eras. LeBron once suggested that playing in today's faster, perimeter-oriented game can be physically demanding in ways that earlier decades were not. That statement angered many retired players. They remember a league where defenses could hand-check ball handlers and where drives to the basket often ended with hard contact from players like Bill Laimbeer. Shaq argues that modern rule changes, especially restrictions on physical defense, have helped extend careers. In his view, stars from the 1990s endured far more punishment on a nightly basis. Stories from that era are legendary. Isaiah Thomas once scored 25 points in a finals quarter despite a severely sprained ankle. Larry Bird played through serious back pain that forced him to lie on the floor during games. Kobe Bryant famously shot free throws with a torn Achilles tendon. Those examples symbolize what older players consider the ultimate standard of toughness. More recently, LeBron's approach to managing his workload has sparked criticism. The NBA introduced a rule requiring players to appear in at least 65 games to qualify for major awards. When LeBron missed a game against the San Antonio Spurs because of foot soreness, it eliminated him from all NBA consideration for the first time since 2005. For some fans, it was just smart health management for a veteran in his 40s. For critics, it represented a cultural shift toward protecting careers rather than pushing through adversity. Even other former stars have occasionally entered the conversation. Charles Barkley has complained that debates around LeBron sometimes feel overly defensive, as if questioning his greatness is treated like a personal attack. Meanwhile, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has occasionally criticized LeBron's public behavior, arguing that superstar athletes carry a responsibility to represent the league with maturity. Of course, no discussion of LeBron's legacy is complete without mentioning the most infamous series of his career, the 2011 NBA Finals. The Miami Super Team entered the matchup as heavy favorites against Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. Instead, the series became one of the most shocking upsets in NBA history. LeBron struggled dramatically, averaging fewer than 18 points per game. In Game 4, he scored only 8 points while shooting 3 for 11 from the field. For a player widely considered the best in the world, the performance stunned analysts and fans. Adding to the controversy, cameras caught LeBron and Dwyane Wade jokingly mocking Nowitzki's illness before one game. Dirk responded by delivering a brilliant performance that pushed Dallas toward the championship. That series became a defining moment in the public conversation around LeBron. For critics, it proved that the pressure of expectations could sometimes overwhelm him. Yet despite all these debates, one truth remains undeniable. LeBron James has produced one of the most remarkable careers the sport has ever seen. His longevity, versatility, and sustained excellence have allowed him to compete at an elite level for more than 2 decades. The real argument isn't whether LeBron is great, it's how his greatness should be measured. For Shaquille O'Neal and many players from earlier eras, greatness is about intimidation, dominance, and a relentless competitive edge that breaks opponents mentally. For others, it's about adaptability, leadership, and the ability to remain elite longer than anyone thought possible. That's why the conversation never ends. Is LeBron's longevity the ultimate proof of his greatness? Or does it reflect a modern era that is less physically brutal than the past? Does fear truly define legendary status? Or is it simply nostalgia from players who remember the game differently? The debate continues, and it may never be settled.